Hello everyone, welcome to our new series, The Lightbulb Sessions. The Great British Entrepreneur Awards, in association with BT Skills for Tomorrow, have designed a free live stream series of Lightbulb Sessions to support small businesses and entrepreneurs with insightful and advice-driven sessions, featuring some of the UK's brilliant entrepreneurial minds to illuminate your path to entrepreneurial success. You can find out more about BT Skills for Tomorrow by heading to their website at www.bt.com/skills for tomorrow or by clicking on the link in the comment section. In today's session, Great British Entrepreneur Awards founder Francesca James will speak with the founder of recruitment app Imployable, Peter Kelly founder. Earlier this year, Peter made the decision for him and his team to work a 4-day working week. This session will outline how this has affected his business and what benefits this has brought. Together, Peter and Francesca will identify the good and the bad bits, loss of time versus increase of productivity, the importance of a work-life balance, and how the new way of working has attracted new staff whilst getting the edge on competitors. There is an opportunity to ask questions during this session. If you have a question you'd like to ask Peter, you can pop this in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer these throughout the session. And with that, I'll pass over to our host today, Francesca James.
Thank you so much, Chloe, and welcome everyone. And thank you so much for joining us today, Peter. An incredibly interesting discussion topic today. And obviously you and I have known each other for a little while through the Great British Entrepreneur Awards. I remember seeing you posting about this. I think it was last year, and you were posting about exploring the idea of a 4-day week on social media. And, I think that it's fair to say that you've had an exciting and interesting journey since, and looking forward to sort of delving into that a little bit more this morning. Can we start off just with asking the obvious one? Why did Imployable decide to work a 4-day week?
Hi, Fran. Hi, everybody. So, sometimes I ask myself the same question, but it's basically the fundamental reason why Imployable exists is to improve the lives of everybody through work. When I left the Marines in 2015 and become unemployed, I got a real stark wake up to what work was really like, because I'd been in the Marines since I was 18, so I didn't really know what work was to some extent. And then having a look at how we move forward as a company and what we believe in, and the reason we moved to a 4-day week is I actually read a report from a Scandinavian country that it was Sweden, moved their nurses to a 6-hour day to try and increase health. And I started looking at the UK as a whole, and I need to understand the UK as a whole when it comes to work and workplace mental health and people who live to work, and that balance between working and actually being fulfilled and happy in your work. So a lot of what we do, especially with education, comes down to why education is why it is. And when you start reading into it, education was built on manufacturing. So all people sit in rows, they learn in processes, because that's exactly how manufacturing works. When you look at the 40-hour week, which is a standard week, that was also born from manufacturing because it fit in line with shift work, so shifts in manufacturing settings. So when I'm thinking, right, how do we change education to become more up to date? How do we grow the next generation for the future of work? It's also, what is the future of work? And so looking at it, and you think, well, if that needs to change, then surely so does work itself. So, the reason that I did it really was firstly because I think there needs to be a change. And I think people need to be happy at work, and I think it'll make us more productive. I think we were the most unproductive country in Europe. And the only way you're going to get that is by true happiness. And then the other side of the coin is that generally we won't publicize anything unless we tried it first. So much like, if anyone knows me, the Genie Shares thing that we did, where we gave away 1% of our company, before I put my hat on that, so to speak, I thought, well, let's try it. Let's try it out. And it's the same with, I'm doing a degree at the minute, a degree apprenticeship. So I'm an apprentice. And that was because they wanted me to look at degree level apprenticeships in the future of work. And I said, well, I can only really support that if I know what it is. So I did one. So yeah, that's the reason, really.
Well, fantastic. So obviously you've sort of, I guess, put your money where your mouth is, and invested in Imployable's journey to trialing what a 4-day week might look like. How do you even begin to implement that? And I'm asking you, I guess, founder to founder, you know, when you feel like your business there's, especially in today's climate, there's not much blur between your personal life and your business life, and it seems that it's all consuming. How do you implement that, and what's the mindset shift in order to do that?
So my COO Marina probably hates me, because as a founder you always have this mindset that anything is possible. Right, if that's possible, let's try it. And then, you know, as a founder you also pass that work on to some of your staff to actually put into place. And I know she gets very frustrated, and our admin staff get very frustrated, because I'll come out with this bright idea, and on the face value it looks like I've just woke up one day and gone, you know what, I think we'll work a 4-day week. And it's never for me, because I don't work a 4-day week, I work a 7-day week. And you know, it's always for a bigger reason. But actually I do put a lot of thought and a lot of research into it before I mention it. So I'm not one of these people that mentions it then researches it. I research it, and then once I find it's viable I mention it. Now the implementation is, you know, the execution is the hardest part. Now when I left the Marines I retrained as a project manager, and as part of project management is change management. So for us it was firstly identifying the change process, you know, because it's going to affect different stakeholders in different ways. And if you think from a founder's perspective, it's the board. You know, we have over 300 shareholders through Crowdcube, and we have, you know, big investors, and we want to future-proof ourselves for investment. So going to them and giving them the hard sell about a 4-day week. So I think having that good communication with your board and your shareholders is really important. Plus, if you create a board that also believes what you believe and what you try to achieve, it makes the whole thing a lot easier. And then you have to look at the staff themselves, and you might think, well, the minute you say to all your staff, right, we're going to move to a 4-day week, that everyone will go, yeah, happy days, and get it done. But actually, what we found was that people were coming back with problems. You know, if I move to a 4-day week, how can I do this and how can I do that? And will my wage change? And you know, what does my commute to work look like? So to make it a bit more of a manageable process, we looked at it by departments. So Marina and Anna scrutinized each department and what they do and what their business function is, and then how they can align themselves. And if you think from a client management point of view, it's always hard because our clients work 5-day weeks. So if we're working 4-day weeks, that could potentially mean a day that we're not servicing our clients or being there for them. So then it becomes a bit of test and adjust, because what we decided to do was the 4-day week would run from Monday to Thursday, or Tuesday to Friday. So we split down the department into 2 shifts essentially, and half the department would work Monday to Thursday and the rest would work Tuesday to Friday, so that all 5 days are covered. But there is a little bit more to think about, because I think well into the future. I'm always thinking 5 years ahead, which annoys my staff because they think about today. But when you start looking at the future of work, and what I'm thinking is, what we're finding now is Jobshare and multiple jobs. So back in, you know, the generation above ours, granddad's generation, they joined a company when they were 16 and then they stayed there until they retired, and you know, they stayed in that company. We're in a different world now where I think the average job is held by a millennial for 2 to 3 years maximum before they move on. That creates certain challenges for businesses. How do you make them stay? Which is really important. Why people join a company now, pre-COVID, let's put it that way, it runs much deeper than just pay. So, and then you're finding actually that we might move into more of a space where an individual might have 2 or 3 jobs. So they might work a job Monday to Tuesday, and they might work another job Thursday and Friday, and then another one on Wednesday. So we just don't know what it's going to look like. So for us to be able to be flexible and right at the core of what we do as a business, be flexible and open to these new ways of working, is really important. So it's never an easy process. So the implementation phase has to be run like a project. And the definition of a project is it starts and it ends, and it's not business as usual. And once it ends and you collate all the data that you've got, then you induct it as business as usual, but you know what's going to happen. So for anyone who's thinking about it, what I would suggest is maybe choosing an easy department and a hard department and running a project concurrently where you trial it for 1 or 2 months, understand what happened with each department, and then look at it on a sort of holistic basis where, but it's got to be fair. And that's the key. You can't put one department on a 4-day week and then beast your other department for a 5-day week. So
yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. And you mentioned then Jobshare, because I was going to say that, particularly in small businesses, it's often that a relationship or a particular project or initiative is owned by one person. So I'm guessing that you had to make some structural changes to, I guess, ensure that those relationships were shared across departments and teams where they might not have been done previously.
Yeah, it's all about communication at the end of the day. And as you know, with any startup, right at the beginning, everything is shared. I'll be doing something as a CEO over here, in year 1, and I'll be pulling in someone who's doing marketing to go and do something on sales, and it's all very up in the air, and you lose efficiency because of everyone's double, triple, quadruple hatting. And then the stage that we came to sort of the end of last year was where we moved out of being an early stage startup into an actual functioning business, and just moving out of that can be very difficult for startups, because it goes against how you built the company in the first place, but actually to grow in the future. So I think that for startups, it's slightly easier, because if you've been with that startup right from the start, you understand how that triple hatting, quadruple hatting works and how really important communication is. The real challenge comes from more traditional older businesses who want to look to innovate. And there's going to be teething problems. Nothing ever goes swimmingly, and you might not realize the benefits of what you've done for 6 months down the line. But then once you do, the benefits far outweigh the 6 months of pain, in my view. So it is, a healthy mix of communication, and especially when it comes to Jobshare. Now, I think that when I look at this in a post-COVID way, the businesses are starting to de-risk with people, essentially. So you find your big businesses sacking or making redundant 5,000 people. It's not because they're looking to run a reduced, rate of output. What they're looking to do is reduce risk, and people are their risks. So they will go through a project phase of automation, for instance. So big businesses are doing this all the time, and small businesses, there's no reason why they can't. So communication is definitely the biggest one.
Fantastic. Well, you sort of helped me segue into the next question, because you mentioned earlier that you had a bit of kickback from some of the team in terms of how is this going to work? How does it affect me? But can we focus on the benefits? You're not far off a year down the line, having implemented this huge change in a landscape that has been changing beyond anyone's expectation over this year. What have been the benefits for you as a business, but also, of course, your team and your staff?
So for the team and the staff, what's really important is that, we want to show that we are an employer that cares, and we are an employer that cares. Everyone who works for us is like family. And, we have had staff on furlough and they've missed it, but we kept communication with them. It's all about saying, there's 2 reasons, right? For a startup, you're always cash strapped, always. So it's a way of attracting people to join your mission and to believe what you believe and work for you, where they might not get the remuneration that they might get at another business, i.e. pay. So how can you offset that pay? Well, by giving them a better work-life balance, where they go, well, actually, I'm getting slightly paid less in some circumstances, but I know the bigger goal and I know where we're going, and actually I get to spend more time at home. Now, the biggest problem we had was obviously pay, because you go to the board and you say, I want everyone to work a day less, but I want to pay them exactly the same. And if you're not paying them exactly the same, you're not working a 4-day week, you're just working part-time. right? So we kept everyone's salaries exactly the same. So then it's nothing's going to change, you know. Actually, and the project was, we're going to keep the targets the same and everybody's working is going to be the same. And what we did was we added an hour to the days. So they're 4 days, we added an hour on, which actually worked, because now with a lot of our staff who commute into work, they're actually coming in and leaving outside of commuter times, which means they're actually getting home quicker than when they started, which is really, really helpful. And then when it comes to the pay, if you think about a normal 5-day working week, Monday and Tuesday seem to go really, really quickly. And then you hit hump day on the Wednesday, and that really drags. And so does Thursday, and then Friday flies. And now people procrastinate and they put work off and they're not very efficient, and they get to Wednesday and they're blown out. And, you know, now they get to the Tuesday, end of Tuesday quite quickly, and then realize, oh, actually, I'm halfway through my week, you know. And then they have the realization, oh, I've still got my work to do, but now I'm going to be more productive in work because I know that, you know, I've got Friday off and I've got a long weekend every weekend. For a business perspective, there's two reasons. You know, as a business, we always like to be first, or one of the first to do something, because it's great PR. And you know, I make no apologies for that. It is. And if it helps be a catalyst for change to make people's work-life balance better, then great. And then secondly, is having a team, or being able to show our team that we're not just working them to the bone every day of every week. I actually get really annoyed with my staff, and Marina, who's watching this right now, and Anna, when they email on a Saturday, because I don't want them to email on a Saturday. You see what I mean? So it's very much a passion of mine for people to enjoy life, but also enjoy work.
Fantastic. Well, that's a great answer. You talked about how you had to justify your decision to the board, and I'm guessing obviously that one of their main concerns was loss of productivity. So what are your thoughts a year down the line on that sort of productivity versus time? I think you touched on it before, but it would be great to see what impact that's actually had on Imployable.
The key, I mean, we were lucky, right? I say we were lucky. Project wise, we knew that it worked in an office setting. We'd had it nailed. And so we were very confident. And then all of a sudden we were forced into a lockdown where we had to work from home. And I'm always the optimist. And it was oh no, what happens to the 4-day week now? Well, let's try it. Let's trial working from home. And we sent, it's funny, we sent everyone to work from home 2 weeks before the lockdown. So we sort of saw what was coming and thought, right, we're going to need to have a little bit of a test at working from home here. So we did it 2 weeks before the lockdown, and it worked really well. And then I'm a very analytical person. So I look at, you know, and it's not analytics just as in data and hard data, it's intangible stuff as well. It's, you know, I can say from our staff who are there, you imagine staff who have been put on furlough, for instance, can get very frustrated. They want to be part of the work, and it's been the best thing that I've had is feedback saying, oh, I want to come back to work, not because the four walls are driving them insane, but when you're part of a purpose and you're part of something that's moving towards something much bigger than what we are, you know, and then all of a sudden you're detached from that purpose, you lose that purpose, even just temporarily. That is a bigger indicator to me than any piece of data. Now, when it comes to the board, we're very lucky at Imployable because we have a board that truly believes that, you know, what we can do for people to identify, map and track their way into a new career, to transition skills from another, and to look at the future of work and help shape education for the future of work, is they're very open. And so they're very innovative, an innovative board. So when you go to them and say, I want to trial this, and this is something I want to do, you know, they're very much, yeah, let's try it. Let's see what happens. The key there is to not overpromise with your staff. I'm terrible for this. I'm so bad. Where I'll go in all excited and I'll explain, and then Marina has to step in and go, right, this is a trial and we're going to trial it first. And it's really important that you don't use it as a whipping stick. Yeah. So you can't turn around to your staff if you've had a bad week and say, I'll take away the 4-day week and you'll work 5 days again, because that's so disingenuous to the reason why you started in the first place. So you have to be careful and mindful that once you accept something as now business as usual, that's business as usual, and you can't take it away without running the same project again in reverse. And it's quite interesting that it's all about behaviors, really, behaviors and attitudes. And you can see that attitude. We had everyone back in the office on Monday. It was amazing. Everyone turned up 15 minutes early. Everyone was happy. It was all COVID safe. And that shows me that no one resented coming back, and I think that's the key.
Fantastic.
That answers that.
That it had to be something that you trialed, and you were able to justify the fact that the way you were thinking that it would work actually transpired into reality, and it worked. What timeline did you put on that? Did you say, let's give it a year? Was it less? What was the thinking there, and the actuality, I guess?
So this is where Marina and Anna come in, because I very much go, I've done my research. I don't tell anyone I've done my research, and I go in and say, right, I want to do this, and then right, get it done now. And then I become a hindrance then, because I don't think, that's Marina's job essentially as the operations director, to think about how it affects us on a day-to-day. And she has full reign to tell me to bugger off, and to tell me how it is. And thankfully, when you build a good team that thinks, some founders think that they need to know everything and be an expert in everything, and that's absolutely not true. You need to be an expert in something, but you also need to be an expert in understanding that there are experts there that do what you can't do. And if you're not hiring those people, then you're doing something really wrong. So that's what when you look at things like the change curve, so the process of change curve and people's reaction to change. So Marina, for instance, when I told her, the first reaction was anger, because I've now just given her a big piece of work that on the face of it looks like I just thought about it there and then. And then it's the phase where you go through the realization of what that change means, and then you adapt and adopt that change. And that's what she went through. And same with Anna, because it was them that had the workload. And so they came up with a plan that we would, firstly, behind closed doors. Now, I didn't help here because I'm an idiot. And in a staff meeting, I stood up and said, right, I want to move to a 4-day week without consulting them first. Like, such a silly thing to do. And I look back now and think that was absolutely stupid, because should have had a HODS meeting, should have really scrutinized it before telling the staff. But I'm one of these, I'm like Santa Claus. I just want to turn up and deliver gifts to people like constantly. So, I'm learning as well as we go. But then once they'd sat down and worked out how it was going to affect us, it was like, right, we need to put a time frame on this. And it was initially going to be a 3-month time frame so before we change contracts and before we change policies, it was a 3 months. We know the first month is going to be all over the place. We know the second month will be vastly better than the first month, but then we'll really see what the outcome is on the third month when people sort of adopt it. But within the back of their mind, knowing it has to be short enough that it's punchy and gets done, but it has to be long enough that you'll get a true representation of how it would actually be. Because it's like if you say to a child, if you be good for the next 2 hours, you'll get a sweet, and they will be the best child ever for the next 2 hours. And then once they've got their sweet, they become a naughty child again. But it can't be, if you're good for the next 4 years, I'll give you a sweet, because after, X amount of hours, they'd lose it. So 3 months is a really good time frame, whereas they almost forget that it's still a trial by the 3rd month.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like after your Santa Claus announcement that you certainly talked it through with Marina, who you've mentioned a few times on this call. But we've got a question that's come in here. It's anonymous, but what other ways do you get staff feedback, Peter? And I guess what might be good to know, just so that the audience can relate, is how big is the team at Imployable?
So pre-COVID, we were 13 of us, so only 13 plus development team of 6. Development team work full time, because just that's the nature of the job. So not a horrendously big team, big enough that it causes issues, but also just the right size where you're not making 400 people's lives completely different. That's where middle management comes in really, really well. So we've set up for the future, essentially. So organizational chart, our organizational structure, our team structure is all there, albeit with gaps for people that we know that we'll need in a year's time. And so by understanding the staff that we have now and understanding the staff that we're going to have, you can sort of project to the future how that will work as well, if that makes sense. I can, I'm no expert when you do it for 12. I mean, we've been very lucky because of the way in which we sit as the business that we are when it comes to COVID, where we've actually doubled in size in the last week now, which is crazy because at the start of this lockdown, as any startup founder was thinking, we're going to run out of money, and it's not, I'm going to lose my baby. It's that I've got 12 livelihoods here. I've got a lot of money of other people's investments, now coming out the other end of it by having a cool head in a calm head in a storm, we start realizing the benefits. But, we had to innovate as well. And we had to change some things to have a bit of foresight. So I can imagine this would be a very painful process for, a company 50 to 100 plus. But not impossible, right? If you take the fundamental basis of working a department at a time. And then what you'll find is if you did it a department at a time and you had a lot of buy-in from wider staff, is the people not on the 4-day week trial will help the people on the 4-day week trial even more. So it will boost their productivity because they want the outcome and they want the success of that project that's being trialed on. And then, the gradual phasing in of other departments.
Fantastic. So I guess just to make sure that we answer the question that someone submitted, how do your team's big enough that you can talk to everyone? It's the size that you can have a chat with everyone. But have there been any other mechanisms that you've used to collect feedback, maybe anonymously, so that you can get the true feedback? What have you put in place there?
Well, so it's kind of hard when the proof is in the pudding when it comes to work. The only way you're going to get true feedback of how it's going is by looking at the output, and it's always hard to do that because you don't know whether the output is now because there's less hours being worked. You don't know the output, whether it's to do with the attitude of the individuals. Now, I know that we did look at certain things like anonymous surveys to be able to come back, but it wasn't viable because when you do have a small team, you know how people write, you know what they write, you know everything about them. So that in itself would be counterproductive because they'll always tell you what you want to hear. So I think it's a bit of a hybrid where we have a very open company and everybody is very open with each other. And, we don't believe in failure when you do it the first time. And so everybody understands that actually it's not failure, it's just learning how not to do it the next time. And if you do it again the same way, then, then you've got an issue. So we have really open discussions between the staff. But then when you cross-reference that with the output of what's coming out for work, and we did, we found some great stuff, but we also did find some other stuff that we had to look at, slight corner cutting, let's say, that we had to sort of look at and go, how much of a negative is this? But then that's where you find that actually people need support. So
brilliant. That leads really nicely onto a question we've got from Pete Wilkinson, who says, if you were to do this again in a different business, what one thing would you change that might improve the rollout of the 4-day week?
Okay, the first thing I would do is look at how I engage stakeholders. For me personally, because me standing up in a team meeting and saying, right, we're going to move to a 4-day week is foolish, absolutely foolish. And I would have done it in reverse, where I'd have called a head of departments meeting and said, right, this is what I want to do. And it's all, the thing is all part of learning, right? I was in the Marines 5 years ago. I was unemployed 4 years ago. And then I was, essentially a CEO 3 years ago. So it's all part of that learning. I think this is where research comes in, and it's really good why these things are really important, because you can learn so much from the mistakes of other people. So now I know anyone watching this webinar will not walk into work on Monday and go, we're going to go for a 4-day week, because it's, that's a stupid thing to do. Albeit it G's everyone up and everyone gets happy, but it's counterproductive. So if I could do it again, I think I would have completely done the HODS thing first, aired everybody's concerns from a management perspective, taken that on board, and then gone to the staff with an actual plan. Because even I should know that, being in the Marines, is you don't just go and attack something. You know, there's planning that goes on before that to stop you getting killed. So I need to also engage that part of my brain when it comes to business, because it could have killed me. So
great answer. Helen asks, and you've touched upon some of it, but what measurements did you put in place to decide if the trial worked? But interestingly, highlights asking about attendance. And I think that's a really interesting one. So Helen asks, you know, in terms of productivity, attendance, increasing sales, quality of the work output. So it'd be great to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, attendance is really, really big. Being a startup, when you're a startup, everything's so lackadaisy. You know, you turn up in flip-flops and a hoodie, and staff come in and they might be 10 minutes late. And all of a sudden, if you carry on that trend, if you try and be a startup as a fully functioning business, it really doesn't work. So once we'd input that, we also started tracking as a measurement. And we were completely honest with our staff. We have electronic cards that come in and out. So we produced a report every week on when people were coming in, when people were leaving, just to get a measure of time. And the difference was absolutely stark. You know, where people or our staff were actually coming in earlier. So instead of coming in on the button or 2 or 3 minutes late, which, if you think about it, when you're a startup owner, you don't really care. You know, you want to be everyone's friend, and you want everyone to just get on and be happy, knowing that you're beasting them, because we're a startup and we have to produce so much more than someone who's doing it, you know, on a day-to-day basis. But then it's hard when you're that close with your staff to be able to say, right, that's it now, I'm going to be an arse because I'm a proper business leader now and I need you to come in early. So tracking that, we found that people were coming in early, and actually people were staying a little bit later because now we've taken a day off them, but their targets are staying the same, and they've effectively bought 4 hours of paid work that they're not doing. Is we were finding that one of our staff was coordinating their bus with leaving, and would do an extra 20 minutes at the end of the work day to ensure that everything they did on Friday, or that there was nothing to do on Friday. So again, I don't like that. You leave work when you leave work, and you turn up to work when you're doing work. But it just shows you that actually people were a bit more engaged in their work, and it meant more that they finished their work and not defer it, which is really important.
Yeah, I think it's a mindset shift, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to be part of the future, and who doesn't want to be part of something that hopefully will change, you know, potentially millions of people's lives and change the future of work? And who doesn't want to be part of a close-knit team that says, hey, you've got an idea, let's try it? You know, any one of our staff can come to me and say, I've got this idea, and I'll be like, yeah, let's look at it, and then we'll see if it's feasible. I mean, they're better off going to Marina, because Marina will actually think about it, whereas I'd probably go, yeah, that sounds great, let's do it.
Fantastic. Another anonymous question here, Peter. As the founder of an early stage startup with a small team of just a few people, sometimes it's difficult to even stop for a weekend. Is there any specific advice for very small early stage companies implementing this when there's so much work to be done, both in terms of the founder adjusting as well as your staff?
You know what, I'm still learning this now. I mean, I like to say that I always sacrifice myself for my staff. So, you know, taking a pay cut if I have to take a pay cut. I work 7 days a week, and I will work until 1 o'clock in the morning, if that's what it takes for me to make sure they've still got a job to go to. You know, and we've been through that pre-COVID. You know, any early stage founder will look at their bank balance and always continue to try and work out their runway. And I've had a bit of a mind shift over the last sort of 6 months, where there's a point where you're going to burn out. And if you think that you're achieving a lot at midnight on a Saturday, you're actually not. And it's the best thing I did actually was get 2 phones. So now I have a personal phone and I have a work phone. And then I had to have a word with myself and say, on Friday, that work phone goes off. And I will still tinker around and do things on the Saturday, but now I thought, right, and I've set myself goals personally outside of work to say, like, I'm converting my garage to a gym now. I don't know if I'll ever use the gym, but I'm at least putting that effort in. So I need to find time for that now, and it becomes part of my work, and it helps me take my mind off things. Be under no illusion when you start an early stage startup, especially when you first get your first investment. I remember we got £300,000 of seed investment, and as a founder, you just pile pressure on yourself now, because you're like, I'm burning someone else's money and I owe it to them to work every day of my life. But if you speak to the people who invested that money, they didn't per se invest in the idea, because anyone can have a great idea, anyone can come up with a great idea, but not everyone can pull it off. And someone could have a mediocre idea, but be absolutely amazing at it and create something absolutely amazing, because your idea when it starts will be completely different 5 years down the road. So they invest that money into you as a founder. And the last thing they want to happen to you as a founder is to burn out or lose faith. So it's very hard, but you have to almost work your home life a bit like your work life and program stuff in, because then you absolutely must do it. It's easy for me to say, I know. Been there.
You've been there and you've done it. So this is an interesting one. And again, it's anonymous, but what extent do you include clients in the project? I think, unless I've got this wrong, I think the project being the rollout of the 4-day week. You know, how did you breach that with clients? What was the conversation? Do they not contact you on certain days? Is their expectation changed? How have you dealt with it?
The real gold standard is that your clients never know you did it. And we could have just put all of our staff on Monday to Thursday and closed Friday, and then just publicized to all of our clients that we don't work Friday, Saturday and Sunday. That's not the point, right? Yes, all right, if you want to make a statement and say that you should go for a 4-day week, if you worked 4-day week, then we'd be able to talk, but you can't treat clients like that. The gold standard is coming to a compromise where, and this was the shift that we did. Yes, we'd love everyone to be able to have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off work, and then work Monday to Thursday, and then you've got that continuity, but it would never work. So we didn't even tell our clients. And the reason we didn't tell our clients is because we didn't want our clients to think about it. What we wanted was our clients to come back to us as normal. And if they came back to us and said, look, I'm really struggling to speak to you on a Friday or on a Monday, then you can understand that you get true feedback from the client then that it's not working. I think the minute you, depending on what client it is, we have really close-knit clients that we're working with, you know, on a much bigger scale. So people like BP, for instance, we work with. If I went to them, who we've got a really good relationship, and said, oh, we're going to start working a 4-day week, they would be supportive of what we're doing. So feedback wouldn't be true, because they want to be a part of what we're a part of, and we want to be a part of how they're going to change. And so the key is to not tell them, in my view, and see how it goes, but also be mindful that if something does start going wrong, falling down on the client side, that you have to have a backup plan for that. And what we did was we introduced the backup plan as the primary plan, i.e. shift work. So we always had, and luckily we don't have that weight of clients talking to us all the time. And that's the joy of being a digital company, is that, you know, a lot of it is handled digitally, and really the only time they ever talk to us is if there was a problem. Whereas I can see for more physical businesses that engage and talk and visit their clients more often, what you might find is to cover the same amount of ground, you might have to hire more people. But actually hiring more people might not be a bad thing, especially if you think, right, well, we need another person to grow anyway. Let's take on 2 people. But then you can start messing with the model a little bit more and innovating, because there's something I'm really passionate about is school hour jobs. So it's parents who are struggling at the moment, and you'll find that with the food bank stuff that's been going on, and, you know, the people most affected are working people, are parents, because they're not, you know, they're not able to go and get a job, for instance. So then you could say, right, we need an extra person. So why don't we, this is something I want to look at, is why don't we try and open a job that starts at 9:15 and finishes at 2:45? You're never going to pay over the odds. You'll only pay for what they work, but that could be a massive lifeline for that person. So I think the minute you get into the mindset that there is no law that says how many hours, you know, or under law, for instance, that says how many hours that your staff have to work. If you want to hire them for 5 hours and they sign a contract saying they're going to work 5 hours, then that's what you do. So once you start opening your mind to different ways of working, I think other ways to solve other problems or problems that are created come out of play as well.
And I know that one of the things I hear you speak passionately about, and obviously is a big part of Imployable, is about your employer brand and what your and the messaging that you go out to with, you know, clients, with new starts. Was it because you've sort of doubled the size of the team, you know, in recent times, as you mentioned earlier? Is that now a big part of your appeal, your sort of sales pitch to the best talent?
No, I don't think it is, because it's just what we do, and we don't use it as a tool to strip people. Actually, the biggest thing for me when employing anyone, before the benefits of, you know, pay, and we for instance give everybody their birthday off as an extra day leave, and we give everybody their employable birthday off. So everyone has 2 birthdays in a year, so they get 2 extra days leave a year. So they don't work their birthday, they don't work the day their anniversary of employable. We don't really even communicate that, to be honest. The biggest thing for me when employing, because this is the joy of being a disruptive startup, isn't it? Is I'm always looking at the end goal and then working my way back. How do we get there? So the biggest thing for me is about the passion for the end goal. So when I interview people, when I talk to people who are going to join us, you know, do you believe what we're doing? And if you believe what we're doing and you also want what we want, then also on top of that, you'll work a 4-day week. On top of that, you'll get 2 extra days leave for this. On top of that, if you're a member of the armed forces or reserve forces, you'll get 2 weeks extra leave every year, no matter what, to make sure that you can go and do that and fulfill that. And it's not so, you know, if we put out a job post we did recently for a coach, we didn't say, come here and work a 4-day week and then do your job. It's this is what we're aiming to do. This is how we're going to disrupt this industry. This is how we're going to improve the lives of people. And then this is how we're going to improve your life. So, and I think actually, if you go in with it in the mindset that you're going to just communicate that you work a 4-day week, I mean, half the people who know us don't even know that we work a 4-day week. You're disingenuous on why you started a 4-day week in the first place.
Good answer. Right, we've got 2 brilliant questions from Aldin and Jamie to finish off. We'll start with Aldin. It says, you mentioned using a card for office check-ins and check-outs. Considering the future of work, how do you plan to manage remote working along with the flexibility of your staff? For example, school drop-offs, pickups, so that there might be check-ins on multiple times a day remotely, or multiple shifts within a day.
Yeah, agree. The check-in of the cards was literally just a test. I mean, we don't generally do that. It was just a test to see if we could see any difference before of when people were coming in and stuff that we'd noted and seen, and then if we could see any difference after. Now, you have to be a bit of a grown-up when it comes to this, because when you strike the balance right of this is a place that I want to work, you enter a whole new reason of why people work for you. You find someone who hates their job, you know, they turn up on time or a couple of minutes late because they don't want to lose their job. When you're flexible and you input something that directly helps someone with their lives, they don't want to lose their job because they don't want to lose their lifestyle anymore. So not that you don't have to track it, and you know, you should audit these things to make sure people aren't taking the mick. But at the same time, what you find is our new sales manager, for instance, he's absolutely brilliant. I think he's watching, better be. I'm noticing already things that he's doing, having been with a company a week, that tell me that, you know, this is a business that he wants for his own personal lifestyle as well. Things like, no, I'll get this done tonight because I want to get it done. So then that puts me in a position, if we've got, you know, our staff who have that mindset, I don't have to check in on them. I don't have to. I can see when they're online on Slack, and I can see what they're logging. I can see the work that they're doing. End of the day, that's the point in having targets, right? So target-driven businesses, sales, for instance, account management. If they're hitting their targets that I set out and that Marina sets out, that is what we want them to hit in a week. Why do I care how they're doing it? If they have to pop out, we don't have lunch breaks at work. And I say that to everyone who joins, we don't have lunch breaks, we don't have breaks. I.e., eat your lunch when you want to eat your lunch. And if you want to go for a break, go for a walk. Simple as that. Not 10 o'clock, you're going to go on a break, 12. Why? You know, that's the whole point of being innovative And then it's the empowering your staff, you know, empowering the people around you to go and do what's right. And under no illusion, there will be a point where this gets abused. I'm sure of it. And it's firstly, how we identify that's being abused. Being target driven helps that. But then secondly, what is our approach going to be? And you know what? It will be another test at the end of the day.
Fab. Look, we've got one question that I want to end on, but I can't ignore the comments that have come in from your team. Marina says CEO, so maybe you named her wrong, her job title wrong, I'm not sure.
CEO.
An anonymous attendee, but it's actually from your team. And I think this is wonderful, Pete. Not a question, but a big shout out to Pete from the whole Imployable team. He's steered us and continues to lead and steer us through these uncertain times without having had a week off, which shows his loyalty, dedication. Okay, I've seen the correction. As our COO, and Marina's corrected that. We take our hat off to him. So I think that's wonderful. And I want to end with Jamie's question. Jamie's asked, you know, how can we work together as a community? And I guess that means a community of entrepreneurs and small businesses to inspire other businesses to make a 4-day week the norm across society.
I think the power is in collaboration, right? Now, Imployable is not designed to be the expert in everything that we do. The field that we're in is about educating people to improve their lives, to improve their work, to develop themselves. We cannot be the expert in all of those fields. We just can't. But what we are is we're the expert in the technology and the concept behind connecting people to the right people. And if you take it offline, I think the same is true for, you know, businesses in general. It doesn't matter if they're a competitor. It doesn't matter if they're, you know, a collaborator. Entrepreneurship in the UK is probably one of the most important aspects of the future of the UK economy, globally as well. So if we turn around as entrepreneurs and young startups and say, well, this is our norm, this is how we work, and this is what we do, and we make that normal, then you force the hand, because what you don't want the government to come in and say, well, we've noticed that we're the most unproductive country in Europe, so now everybody's going to work a 4-day week, and force it on people. That's not how you do it. But if you come together, and I think having the GBEA as a network is great, because there might be a founder in the network that says, oh, I'm thinking about moving to a 4-day week. And then you go, well, go speak to Pete, who's also in our network. And then we work together. And the more people that you club together, you mitigate risk and you answer all of the questions that are unanswered from each other. Unfortunately, someone has to pioneer it. Now, we didn't pioneer it, but we went with it. And we didn't know anyone, if you know what I mean, in our networks that had done it before. So we didn't have that network. But I think to come together as a community and say, we care about our businesses, but we care about our staff, because at the end of the day, if you think about it, it's the staff that get you where you want to be. You can have 100 staff who work 5-day weeks, who don't really care about what you're achieving, who just earn a wage. And that is absolutely fine, because that's sometimes what makes people happy, is to not have the burden of the belief. And that's absolutely fine. But the staff that go above and beyond are the people who believe what you believe, and they make your mission their mission and your purpose their purpose. And the more people like that you could attract, then the more people will listen. And then if we suddenly have the next 5 years of all new startups and entrepreneurs working 4-day weeks, then what you'll find is a shift change with traditional businesses who want to align themselves with new businesses. And then what they'll say is, well, it works for them. They're attracting all the best staff and talent. They're winning the heartstrings of their clients. They're winning more clients because their clients believe in what they can do. And the reason we have such big clients is because we say something about them. They might not be at that position yet, but we amplify what they're about. And I think that's when clients will turn around and go, you know, ring me up and say, oh, it's BP and we have 75,000 employees and we're thinking about moving to a 4-day week. I think I'll go read my blog and then put the phone down. But, you know, I think that it's knowledge shared here is really important.
Fantastic. Peter, I can't thank you enough. A wonderful session. We've got some brilliant feedback. Thank you so much. And thanks for being a real active member of the Great British Entrepreneurs community. I think entrepreneurs now need to be supportive and collaborative more than ever. And I thank you for getting involved today.
No, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Peter and Francesca, for joining us today and sharing your expertise and knowledge. What a great session that was. You can join our next Lightbulb session at the same time next Thursday, as we'll be joined by founder of Social Chain, Dominic McGregor, as we discuss looking after your staff and why Social Chain hired ahead of happiness. If there is anything you'd like to catch up on from today's session, we'll be sending out a replay of this recording later on today. You can find the replay and future sessions at www.lightbulb-sessions.haysummit.com or by clicking on the link in the comment section. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you again, Peter and Francesca.